Hi, this is Jeremy Burgess from Urban Detroit Wholesalers, and welcome to another episode of Detroit Investor TV. This is a continuation of our rehab series that we have been running, and this week we're going to go over when you're rehabbing a house, liability issues and safety issues for the tenant. And you're going to have to excuse me. I'm a little sick today, so I'm going to have to keep notes. My head's a little foggy here, so I may have to look down. A lot of these houses are 70 to 80 years old. I think I've mentioned that a couple of times. And regardless of which method you subscribe to in rehabbing a house, whether it's the maintenance-free method or the least amount of capital invested method, there are definitely some things you want to do when it comes to safety and liability when you're rehabbing a house. First, most people are going to catch some of the basics. Porch railings. As you know, it gets cold here. Lots of ice, lots of snow in the winter. There's typically a porch in the front and sometimes a porch in the back. And it's very important that the railings, it's typically 2 or 3 steps up to the porch, and there's some railings there. Many times these railings are inadequate. If somebody actually slipped and grabbed hold of it, many times the railings would actually break. So that's something you definitely want to do on the front porch, and if it does have a back porch, is if the old railings are in good shape, definitely make sure and really get them in there. If not, replace them and to make sure and really test it too, because if a tenant comes out and slips on the ice and then reaches for the railing and falls and ends up hurting themselves, that's obviously a liability issue for you and a safety concern for the tenant as well. Next one that most people get is smoke detectors on all floors. Now, if you're going to be with Section 8, they're going to check this anyway. But some people don't think of these little things. Is you need a minimum of 1 smoke detector on each floor. So if it's a 2-story home, 1 upstairs, 1 on the first floor, and 1 in the basement. And depending on the size of the home, I will put in several on each floor. They're pretty cheap to install, and it's just really a safety issue. If you're like me, you might put 1 in each bedroom, 1 in the kitchen, 1 in the basement. Is kind of like my standard thing that I do. Is so they're gonna have 5, 6, 7 smoke detectors, but they're cheap, and that's a safety and a liability issue, and they're gonna require it for Section 8 anyway. Electrical, like I said, a lot of these homes 70, 80 years old. Believe it or not, I am continually shocked by how many of these homes have not had updated electrical. Like most investors get the upgrading from the fuse to the 120 amp box. So if there are fuses there still, go ahead and upgrade it to a 120 amp box, and that's because we have electronics now and all sorts of power demands and bigger fridges and freezers, DVD players, flat screen TVs. They all computers. They all soak up a lot of power, and the fuses weren't really meant for that kind of power drain. And these fuses are from like the 60s or 70s. So definitely replace the panel. Now, getting to the wiring, I would say in about 30 or 40% of the houses that I buy and I rehab that I wholesale, the original wiring is still in the home. And why is this a problem? Well, especially from the 40s, the wiring isn't the wiring you see today, or the copper wiring that's all protected and coated and safe. They actually used aluminum. The aluminum that was actually bound in cloth. And you're like, why would they do that? Well, there wasn't that many power demands in a home from the 30s or 40s. So that was, while it's still dangerous, relatively safe. While today, obviously, that is not the case with all the power demands we have. So it really needs to be upgraded to copper. Now, 50-60% of the time, this has been done. But almost 100% of the time, what hasn't been done is they may have upgraded all the electrical wiring in the home, but they never put in the ground wire for each outlet. You're asking, why is that important again? Well, once it comes down to power drain on the home, and the ground is the third plug. So you got the 2, and then you got the 1 on the bottom. That's the ground, and it's really important. Fire prevention, all sorts of safety especially if it involves water, that ground is there. So even if the wiring has been replaced, if the grounding wire hasn't been put in, that definitely needs to be run to every single outlet in the home. And sticking on wires, most people catch this, but just in case, you want to install GFI outlets within 3 feet of water. And what's a GFI outlet? Well, it's an outlet with its own breaker built in. And this is typically used near sinks, bathtubs, all sources of water, and it doesn't cost hardly anything to do. And it's a safety and liability issue. And for Section 8, they're going to check this anyway, so you're going to need to have it there. But safety and liability issue as well on that. Yeah, so those are the basics of, when you're rehabbing a house, regardless of which method you choose to do. You definitely want to take care of those safety and liability issues for your investment property, and this will make sure that if something does go wrong, you don't end up in court. And more importantly, instead of worrying about our liability, as investors, we want to have a nice home to rent out. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to put families in danger. So that's very important to me. Once again, this is Jeremy Burgess from Urban Detroit Wholesalers. Thanks for watching this episode of Detroit Investor TV. Have a good one and happy investing.